Educate yourself, but understand that you educate yourself with a purpose and get laser beam focused on the action, and understand that a lot of the YouTube and podcast is entertainment. It's not education. Hey guys, special treat of a video upcoming here for you. My business partner, Jason Mattern, and I sat down and we asked each other a simple question. What would you do if you were just starting today in 2021 and you're just brand new and you're just getting started on this journey of real estate investing? Simple question, complex answer. So Jason and I went into the Wayback Time Machine to pull out some of the things that we had learned over the years. You get to look over our shoulders as we have this incredible conversation about what would we do with our combined 40 years of wisdom and experience. What would we take from what we've known in the past and apply it into today's marketplace? And you're going to thoroughly love this conversation. Let's go. All right, Jay, one more question that I want to dive into here today. So we're going to have to go into the Wayback Time Machine here. Woo, the Wayback Time Machine. I've got hair. You have a few more follicles on your head too.
Barely.
Yeah, barely. There's a few less gray hairs in the beard. And it's still 2021, but you and I are both just getting started today. Like we're just getting involved in real estate investing today. And I'm going to jump in and answer a few of these myself and give you some advice as well. But what advice would you give to somebody starting in 2021 if you're just getting out into the real estate market right now?
Wow. Okay. So just to be clear, if someone is really looking to start their investment career today, what advice would I give? I would probably jump right to know your end game, where you want to end up. And I think I asked that for those of you listening and watching that have had a chance to connect with me. I always ask where real estate fits. Is it part of a long-term wealth plan? Is it part of a retirement plan? Is it, get rich quick? What are you trying to do with it, and where does it fit in your life? Because the properties that you're going to look at and the property types that are available will all contribute differently to those equations, I guess. And I think the advice that I would give is, and you don't even need to understand the properties and the property types. I think that's our job, to bring that clarity to you. But I didn't do that, Russ. And I guess just talking on a personal experience a little bit, I got caught up in the hype. I mean, back in the day, we attended seminars and weekend events, and I got caught up in the hype of real estate investment itself because it's easy, it's exciting, it's fun. And, I bought a lot of my first properties off of a sheet of paper, off of pro forma. And, not saying that that's not a viable step to look at, but, the experience was good for the first little bit, but where, I ended up getting caught was a year or two or three down the road when there was, hidden expenses, with furnace costs and renovation costs, or that I bought some properties with tenants in them, and when they left, the tenants left me with a mess, and I needed a $10,000 or $12,000 renovation bill. But at the end of the day, if you've got the stomach for that and it's part of your long-term plan, that's great. If that's the property type you are looking at, we just need to make sure that up front and allocate maybe for those costs, or understand what those potential costs might be, because if it's part of a retirement plan, I think, you want to come in with your 20% down and keep as clean to that as you can, and not be in a situation where you have to contribute any more capital unless it's going towards mortgage principal reduction or buying further assets. So answer the question, that's where I would understand your end game first.
Yep. And I'm going to build off of that. As a matter of fact, that's why I took the time to build out an entire 5-part training series. It's on my podcast. It's also on the YouTube. So probably wherever you're watching or listening to this, you'll be able to find that. Is what's the end game? But let's put it into a plan. Like, let's put it into a pragmatic 15-year believable plan. Like, how many properties will you need? What kind of retirement income are you looking to do? And I built out a plan for people, which this is actually, I built it off of a plan that you and I have talked about for I don't know how many years. I just put it into a pretty PowerPoint presentation. And it's one of those ones that I wish somebody would have shared with me 15, 20 years ago. Things would be a lot different. But what it does is it breaks out a plan on how you can make a $1.8 million real estate asset base, and you can generate $93,000 a year over a 15-year time frame. Now, there's lots of variables, and I'm not going to, it's literally an hour case study that I walk people through. So if you guys are interested in that, by all means, check out a link around here where you can get that information. Okay, so first step would be have a plan. Okay, the next thing I'm going to dive into here is, and this is going to be very ironic, the point I'm going to make here, meaning that this is going to be on YouTube and it's going to be on podcast. So here's the irony of it is, stop watching YouTube videos and stop listening to podcasts that are so shotgun approach that it just doesn't do you any service. Meaning, I understand education and I understand learning and I understand being exposed to different investment opportunities. But if you're just getting started, to learn on a podcast of how somebody's buying a mobile home park, or how they're doing land development, or how somebody is buying a 50-unit apartment building, or how somebody is building out their team and growing and scaling, probably won't do you any service. And how I know this is I have conversations all the time with people that are just getting started, and they're almost more confused now than ever before. They truly are. And then what I do is I just ground them in. I go, what's the next step? Like, what is the first step you want to take? The first step you want to take is maybe it's, buying that first principal residence. Okay, let's reverse engineer a plan and how you do that. Okay, so here's the point. Educate yourself, but understand that you educate yourself with a purpose and get laser beam focused on the action, and understand that a lot of the YouTube and podcast is entertainment. It's not education.
Well, I think on that note, Russ, you have to be laser focused in this approach, because in the real estate investing world, there's so much gray noise, there's so much traffic and so many opinions that I think one can easily get caught chasing shiny things, if you will, and veering off track. If you've got your target and you know what your end game is, listen, no one should be able to tell you any different. If you know what you're trying to achieve in a 5 and a 10 and a 15-year period, just stay laser focused on that and make sure you achieve that, and don't lose sight of that. But I think I also wanted to just maybe add to what you had mentioned, Russ, of not only keeping laser focused, but don't try and start today and compare yourself to people that are buying, 85 unit apartment block, or, land development, or as you will. Just going back to your example and referring back to your plan of a $1.8 million asset based retirement plan, how many properties do you need to buy to accommodate that approximately?
Yeah.
And let's get this in perspective, because people, it's not this great big pie in the sky plan. This is actually a real achievable plan that really anyone can start and complete. But how many properties does it involve?
Yeah, well, it involves eventually having 3 free and clear places. That's the case study I shared in that. Essentially, it would be 3 suited houses, free and clear. So essentially 6 rental units that were free and clear over a course of time, which means you had to probably buy 9 properties over a 5-year time frame to then manage them, start paying them down, and then eventually sell off 6 to have 3 free and clear. And over a 15-year time frame with 3 free and clear properties, they will be valued approximately $1.8 million and generate about $92,000 a year income for you.
Right. And free and clear title, again, the number of assets.
That's almost a swear word, isn't it? Free and clear. It's like everybody is
leverage.
Well, everybody's refi till you die. And that's the lesson that I teach people eventually too, is guys, eventually this borrowed money has to be paid back, right? It does. So what's the plan to pay it back? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to jump over there, Jay.
No, that's another great point. That's just a whole nother segment of, understanding that end goal. And, it's in a lot of cases really easy. And let's face it, I mean, life circumstances change for each of us. They're different for each of us. And, when you go through a market situation like what our, Vancouver friends and our Toronto friends listening to this right now, where you've seen such massive amounts of capital appreciation over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and you're sitting on $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 worth of equity, it's probably pretty easy to think, hey, how can I access this? And, but I guess the point is, Russ, is that, if you're going to access it, put it to good use, right? Yep. And if you're not, make sure you understand how you're going to pay that back.
Yeah. Another point I'm going to say is, I'm going to jump in with the point here. If starting in 2021, be prepared to build out a team of people. You can't do it all yourself. One of the most important people up front that I would tell that you need to do is you need to get in front of a good qualified mortgage broker to find out where you stand financially, if you can qualify for mortgages, yes or no. That is a fundamental first step that you need to take. Is, I'm not saying go and make a full-blown application, but just find out where you stand. And most qualified mortgage brokers with maybe just a few numbers and a few metrics and maybe a questionnaire can probably tell if you have a chance of qualifying for a mortgage, or do you need help, or do you just, things are just that dire that you have to go a completely different direction. But I think knowing where you stand financially is a fantastic first step.
You can easily fill out an application with a mortgage broker that can give you parameters. But please just make sure you're as truthful as possible on that application, because if you take that information and you maybe bend it a little bit to make the application look good, when you get to an actual, formal financing application with an offer to purchase, your mortgage broker or the lender is going to circle back. And guess what? They're going to want to verify all that information that you told them on that application. So if your income's off, if your asset base, I think you're always better off to maybe fly in a little bit conservative on those applications. And like I say, the mortgage expert should be able to give you your parameters, of what you can qualify for and how many. And really, you can take that to the next step and start looking at real opportunities that'll fit that mold.
Absolutely. What would be another tip you would offer, Jay, if somebody is just getting started in 2021?
I'm going to say this, and it might not sound politically correct, but avoid the vultures. Find yourself and surround yourself with good people that, I think will, legitimately help you get what you want. And you got to understand, and Russ, you said it earlier, is that it's really, really hard to do this yourself, especially if you're living long distance. However, there are people out there in this world, that can really help you on the ground on this side. If Edmonton is your market, or regardless of where your market is, surround yourself with good people. And I think the easy way to do that, and one thing that I always offer to any new customer coming in is, do you want some names and numbers to talk to people that have, used our services, and talk to them, hear it from them, don't hear it from me, and just talk with other people that have gone through the experience, because I think, it's a hard world out there right now. And, if there's people that, are, chasing the transaction, I guess, so to speak, for a paycheck, I don't think that's entirely right. Not in this business. If I've always come at it from the other way, where if you just really bang it out of the park, there's many times, let's face it, we're dealing with real estate investors. Most people come and buy one, then they want another one, and they want another. If they come and have a crummy experience with you off the hop, or realize that you didn't have their intentions first place, you're never going to see these people again. And they're probably not going to talk well about you. However, by doing the opposite, I think is just, makes for great long-term profitable relationships all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree to that one. I'm going to build on that a little bit, and then I'm going to add another tip here as well. And then, Jay, if you want to add one more, we can do that at the end too. So here's what I'm going to do is, this game of real estate is relationships. It truly is. You will meet some lifelong friends. You will meet some people that you probably don't ever want to deal with ever again. It's how you show up in the transaction, and who you become in the process is more than important than the amount of money you make, or the doors you acquire, or any of the other kind of stuff. Your reputation and who you show up is it's capital for you, and it can be gone in a heartbeat. So just be very mindful about your relationships. And my real estate relationships are worth more to me than any individual asset that I own. My treasured assets are the people in my database and the people on my phone that I can pick up if I'm having pick up my phone, and if I'm having trouble, and I can reach out to a good friend, and I just have an amazing relationship with people. That is the true asset that you're investing in and that you have, is your relationships. All right. I'm going to offer one more tip before we go. And if you have another one, Jay, we can add it in, or we can, potentially wrap it up if you want. Here's a big mistake that I made, and I wish I had learned this one a while ago, is tenant profile matters, and understanding who you're renting to, understanding who your customer is vitally important to having a successful real estate investor. Now, take it another step forward, and I know we've shot a video on this. It's called The 3 Pillars of Real Estate. Understand your tenant profile. Match that tenant profile that you want to work with the right house in the right neighborhood, and you stand a better chance of having an incredible ownership experience as a real estate investor. Now, how did I make some of these mistakes? I bought cheap properties based upon pro formas that looked great on paper. I had no consideration for the tenant profile. And lo and behold, I embarrassing to say that I've been contacted multiple times by police that there was gunfire in some of my properties. Right. So I had no consideration for the tenant profile. And if you take it the next step, so all I'm trying to say, guys, is...
And vice versa, Russ, and vice versa. The tenant profile had no consideration for you as the owner either.
Absolutely. So just give a consideration to who the customer is, and very few people actually will do that work. Now, it's funny, I was just on a Facebook group today, and people were talking about having a bad tenant experience and how do I not have a bad tenant experience. And my advice to them is start with the customer and the tenant in mind. Match that customer with the right property in the right area, and you stand a greater chance of having fewer issues. You truly do. You want to expand on that, Jay?
Well, I think it's like any business process. It's a repeatable process. So if you don't understand who your customer is up front, and you don't buy a property in a location that those people will want to rent, you're going to be, trying to jam a square peg in a round hole every time you have a vacancy if you're not aware of that up front. And like I say, if it does happen and you're buying and you have a specific profile that you want to attract, and you design it that way from the start, if you have a tenant turnover, and when you have a tenant turnover, you're going to be able to attract that same type of person back in. No. And ultimately, that's how I look at it, is who do I want to do business with long term and have a personal relationship with? No. And quite frankly, there's tenants that you mentioned, Russ. We don't even want to be these people's friend, let alone have a business or a landlord relationship with them. So just be very mindful of that. Right?
Yeah, and treat it, and you hit the nail on the head with using that word that starts with the B, is treat it like a business, not a hobby. Honest to goodness, guys, if you actually just look at it a little bit more, like each one of these houses is a business in a box, right? And you have to have marketing, you have to have sales, you have to have financing, you have to have the accounting, you have to have all those kind of things, and you treat each one of those assets like a business in a box. You would probably have a better experience if you just gave some consideration to who your customer is and how do you attract that right customer profile. Jay, anything further from you?
Yeah, Russ, good segue. You mentioned the word who, and I think that's a very powerful message just to maybe end off on here is, I think when you're beginning in an investment career, and I think it's a good thing to understand it all. I think you need to understand it all. However, I think throughout that process, you need to understand what you specifically are good at and how you contribute to it. And as the investor, there's a lot of investors that come through our doors, Russ, that are business owners or doctors or lawyers or professionals. They make great income. They are making great income. They do not need a secondary job. So I guess where I'm going with that is that, understand where you fit. And, sometimes it's not how, it's who. And this is where you're circling back and just surrounding yourself around who's that can help you get what you want, and good who's. And, when you have a relationship with people, it's always a two-way street. It's give and take. And I think when you're building your team and you're reaching out to those individuals, understand where everyone fits. And I think if you can manage those relationships and everyone understands what you're trying to achieve, you're going to be successful. It's just to kick it into gear and pull the trigger and make that start is going to be the next biggest challenge.
No,
right?
I hear you. Well, I think that might be a good place to leave off today's conversation. I heard a little beep in the background of your computer, Jay. It's probably your next appointment going to be coming up here as well.
Overdue by 8 minutes.
Yeah. So guys, wherever you're watching or listening to this, please leave some feedback. If there's some things that you want us to dive into a little bit deeper, I know we talked a bit about some getting started topics here in this thing. If you want some deeper dives into a few things, by all means, let us know. We're here to serve. We're here to make a commitment to keep doing these kind of things. And we're just maybe in our old age getting maybe a little more efficient with our time. So Jay, any final words from you before we sign off here today?
I think, Russ, that's a great request, is that if anyone watching or listening, just has questions, it's just information again, people, right? And I think with the experience that I've gone through, that Russ has gone through, you know what? We are certainly more than willing to offer an opinion on that, good, bad, or ugly. And like I said, it's just information. If it's information that you can take and put it to good use and it'll help you, that's what this is all about.
Yeah. So if we can really categorize that, your advice is the good, mine's the bad and the ugly. If we can really put that.
Well, let's let the listeners determine that.
All right, guys. On that note, you have yourself a wonderful day. Talk to you soon. Bye for now. Hey, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you are interested in moving forward with velocity, if you're interested in being a successful real estate investor, only 2 simple next steps from here. Number 1, below where you're watching this, there will be an opportunity for you to subscribe. And over here will be a hand-selected video for you to keep moving forward. Continue your journey forward. Just click on over here for that hand-selected video for you, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you very much.